Most of the teachers that I worked with this year, it wasn't very deep into an investigation where they said, I'm in. This is good for me, it's good for my kids.
Our strategy for that did work out pretty good, and so I'm thinking that could help us out with this because
previously my role has always been seen as the filler of gaps, whether it's literacy gaps, numeracy gaps. It's not a part of my role that's always sit well with me to have educators come into the building that wanted to teach not so much the content side of the mathematics, but the competency side of the mathematics, and that comes out through the math investigations that we're doing this year. It has allowed me to work with kids more holistically with math and not just filling the holes in their understanding of math, but also growing their critical thinking skills, their problem solving skills, and allowing them to use whatever tools that they need to make those connections in mathematics.
So that's number one.
Yeah.
4 people, 3 steps.
Plus 8 people,
Yes.
it's 12 kids.
So you're saying 4 plus 8 is 12?
Yeah.
Okay.
I am super proud of the colleagues that I've worked with this year, taking a risk professionally. I have enjoyed them coming down to my office or grabbing me out of the hallway or searching the school to find me out to share something amazing that their kids have done in math.
Okay, so what else is important for figuring out this question?
I used to think that math and differentiation of instruction looked like me having different math groups or me pulling children to provide different foundational skills or fill in missing gaps. But now I feel like I know that differentiation looks like that low floor, high ceiling, where I'm able to present an open context to learners and they find their entry point within it. They feel empowered, so I feel like math in my room looks a lot like ownership, it looks a lot like individual agency, it looks a lot like critical thinking, creative thinking, and strong relationship building.
I feel like previously I just felt like the only way to do it was to bestow the knowledge on the kids, and there wasn't a lot of room for them to grow or discover. And even I would play games or do stations, or there was some sort of hands-on component, but I always gave the direction because that's not really all I knew where to start and kind of my comfort zone. But this year, trying the open-ended investigations, it's a totally different ballgame. I just feel like it's very student-driven. Collaboration with the LAT has been really helpful and supportive this year, implementing all of those resources. So to talking through, explaining how they work, thinking through the succession of using them, because lots of the units build off one another. So knowing a next step has been great. And even startup, it was kind of intimidating to start it, but she was able to come into our classroom. And even model partner work was very helpful to have another adult to do that and someone with a lot of knowledge.
Parts where I've thought, oh, the answer must be this, or it must be solved this way, or here's how a context has to be presented. I've gone into a colleague's room, presented the same context, and they thought completely differently than I did originally. And it really opened my eyes to living the experience of being a mathematician and recognizing that we all perceive things in different ways. So I feel like that collaboration piece brings in different perspectives, but it also brings in effective problem solvers. We have so many different brains working to solve the same problem or troubleshoot when things don't go the way that we thought. So I feel like we ask our children to be collaborators a lot. We encourage them to work together, and putting ourselves in the same situation helps us empathize what we're asking them to do.
Okay. And then we counted them after, and then
just running it by somebody else and asking them how they would solve a problem. I think a lot of collaboration this year has looked like doing math, doing the investigations together, or doing a mini number talk just with a colleague. And it's never a long process. Usually it's 10 or 15 minutes before or after school or at lunchtime when I have a thought, or I've noticed something, or I'm not quite sure how I'm gonna break down a number talk or an investigation. And I also feel like it's made it so exciting. Like to know somebody else's class and to have them know my class too and be really excited about like the growth that they've made or the ideas that they have has just like made me love teaching math this year.
The other teachers that came on board were ones that kind of heard and saw what was happening in Shivi's and Maisha's classroom and wanted to learn more. They weren't necessarily convinced that this was the best way to go for them or their kids, so they needed to come into classrooms, see how it would how it looked, how it felt. They needed to hear the conversations that the kids were having. They needed to hear the conversations that the teachers were having with the students in order to bring out their thinking and the strategies that they were using. And then I was able to kind of get them into my schedule where I would be able to go in and help them get started with an investigation to, dip their toe into trying something new. I noticed a great change in her questioning of kids as she got more comfortable with the math and the visual strategies of the math. I think her questions have become much more refined in order to guide her students in their thinking. Maisha, I'm astounded at her bravery this year. She started these investigations without seeing Shivi model any lessons for her, and she said, I'll try it, and she just jumped right into the deep end, and her growth has been actually exponential this year. Her number talks, her confidence in leading those number talks and drawing the thinking of the kids and asking clarifying questions.
We need to have 26 packs.
This one over top, and this is starting at, These kids are becoming amazing mathematicians that will take their understanding of math into future years and be more competent mathematical citizens.